If you've ever thought about converting a truck into a tiny home, then stick around and learn from my mistakes, and then maybe watch our other videos. Welcome to the channel. In this video, I want to talk about my truck to camper conversion a little bit. It's actually a pretty good place to start because you can see the whole thing. So in this first picture here, I had to remove the really smelly interior. I mean, it had been used as a horse box for goodness knows how many years, and of course the floor was a little bit horsey, shall we say. The other thing that we needed to do was to actually get the body off the chassis so that we could tip the cab, get to the engine, which of course is underneath here, and then we could actually work on the thing. We wanted it mechanically right before we started the cosmetics. So I didn't take much footage of the interior, but here's old me for a quick tour. Here we go. We've got the, oh, have a butterfly inside. That's always nice. We have the beds made up and we have the seating sorted out. And you can see in the back, we have the other double made and sorted. So actually, this is really, really comfortable place to be. You can see things are not finished here, which just shows how projects like this could just become never-ending. All the work on the mechanics was really worth it though. We had great reliability, and that was, for us, more important than what it looked like. We really didn't want to do loads of interior work and then get down to the MOT station, which is the UK roadworthiness test, and find that it had massive problems. So the priority was get the thing right. One of the reasons I wanted something that was a bit bigger was literally so I can stand up, and as you can see, there's more than enough headroom, and I also wanted to be able to carry weight, which was something that you can't really do with a 3.5 tonner. This is 7.5. Basically, you don't, once you've loaded everything up with people and water and other such stuff, in a 3.5 tonner, you're really pushing the weight limit, and I don't really want to do that. When we first got the truck, it was a bit tired. The inside stank of horses and the floor was rotten. So out it came, and off came the body. This allowed us access to the whole lot. And if you have space to do the same, it really is the thing to do to make your life a lot easier. It was relatively simple to take the body off the chassis. It was just a few bolts that we had to cut. And then we raised up the whole lot on scaffolding and drove the truck out from underneath. It was actually, without the weight of the body on top, it was an alarmingly quick and bouncy thing to drive. Now, one thing that I would do differently is access. You can see the door here. It actually is quite high, but if you look down a bit, you can see we could have built in a little step here, and that would have made our lives an awful lot easier. One thing I would definitely do differently is I would raise the seats up. You can see how they were plated to the floor, angle iron, bolted through. You can see the thickness of the floor, so it really was quite substantial. But I would actually have raised them up so that you get a bit of a view out of the window there, and underneath I'd have put in a locker, and that locker would have been extra storage, of course, and really good for batteries. So this is the rear bunk. Underneath it we had fantastic boot space. I think it was about 6 cubic meters of space, and we had a huge water tank, 500 litres, which sat here directly over the axle, and that meant, you know, 500 litres of water, 500 kilos. The weight was central and where it needed to be. we always carried 2 spare wheels, and the only issue that we actually had, and you can see in the video link up above, was a blowout, and that happened on the French autoroute, which was really expensive at the time. One thing that you really want to do is to select one with a good interior, particularly the cab. It's absolutely impossible to find bits and pieces, and if you're trying to remanufacture yourself, you're just not going to get the results that you want. Also, you can see that this particular cab was not able to tip. Some of them have this front bar removed, which allows you to swing it open and tip the cab forward. That's a huge advantage. You need to be able to get to the engine to, you know, do the most minor jobs. One thing that we didn't do is we didn't bother putting in solar panels. I was worried that they were just going to get knocked off the top, and that would have been really expensive. Also, you've got to fix them somehow, you've got to run wires, and yeah, it just became a pain. And we were not actually ever intending to use this as a completely static tiny home. So I just jimmied in a battery to the system with a kill switch, and that gave us more than enough. We actually tried to confine all the camper bits to the body and have the chassis effectively as a separate unit. The thinking being that, you know, if ever you wanted to change chassis, you could do so without having a complete nightmare. So I guess that this is the last time I shall sit in this seat. Thanks very much indeed for watching Howard's Portugal. It's a bit of a departure from the usual videos. Hope you've enjoyed it. Do let me know in the comments what you think. Have a brilliant day.
That's one of the reasons I love the truck, is the view, the fact that you can see just such a long way. It's absolutely gorgeous. You can see the weather changing as well. The truck's excellent. So there, that's my world.
So with that, we shall say goodbye to the old truck. We're going to start cutting her up. No point her staying there. See what we can recycle. Hope you've enjoyed watching.